Now, count on 2, live and local in the Lowcountry. This is News 2 at 4.
A grocery store opening in an area that's been called a food desert. What this means for the people who live in the area. Plus, radio transmissions from an officer-involved shootout in Hugie. We'll get to those stories in a moment, but first we have breaking news. President Trump has announced the Federal Aviation Administration is grounding all Boeing 737 MAX 8 and 9 planes. This comes after an Ethiopian Airlines jetliner, a Boeing 737 MAX 8, crashed shortly after takeoff over the weekend, killing all 157 people on board. But this isn't the first Boeing 737 MAX 8 crash. A Lion Air flight crashed into the Java Sea in October after taking off from Indonesia. That crash killed all 189 people on board. Now, after the second crash in just 5 months, the planes, which are partly made here in the Lowcountry, are being grounded in the United States.
So planes that are in the air will be grounded. If they're the 737 MAX, will be grounded upon landing at the destination. Pilots have been notified. Airlines have been all notified. Airlines are agreeing with this. The safety of the American people and all people is our paramount concern.
This move will affect travelers around the world. News 2's Deanne Roberts joins us now from Charleston International Airport, where Boeing planes fly out every day. Deanne.
Yes, Sophia, President Trump's emergency order is affecting travelers right here in Charleston. That's because Southwest uses that Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft. And actually, as of right now, one flight has been canceled coming out of Charleston because of this emergency order. I did reach out to Southwest to find out if there would be any more cancellations affecting travelers here in Charleston. Unfortunately, I was not able to reach anyone, but they did send me the following statement saying they are immediately complying with today's FAA requirement for all U.S. airlines to ground the Boeing 737 MAX 8. As a result, we have removed our 34 MAX 8 aircrafts from scheduled service. Southwest has 750 Boeing 737s and 34 MAX 8 aircrafts, which accounts for less than 5% of their daily flights. However, officials are still urging you to check your flights and contact the airline if you think you may be affected. Now, I did head on over to Southwest's website to see if there were any more canceled flights here in Charleston. I haven't seen any as of yet. I did see a couple of delays. Those flights are from Charleston to Baltimore and Dallas. But please, travelers, if you are flying or using Southwest, make sure you go ahead and check your airline. I am actively working to find out if there are any more cancellations this evening, and I'll bring you an update at 5 o'clock. For now, live from the Charleston International Airport, Deanne Roberts, Count on 2.
Thank you for that important update, Deanne. Boeing told News 2 that they support the temporarily grounding action of the 737 MAX aircraft. They released a statement in part saying, "We are supporting this proactive step out of an abundance of caution. Safety is a core value at Boeing for as long as we have been building airplanes, and it will always be. We are doing everything we can to understand the cause of the accidents in partnership with the investigators, deploy safety enhancements, and help ensure this does not happen again." Publix supermarket held its grand opening today on the west side of downtown Charleston. It's in a new development area called the West Edge. News 2's Taylor Murray spent the day over there to find out the details on the future development plans for the area.
The west side of the peninsula historically has not been as developed as the rest of downtown. So the West Edge Foundation says that they are partnering with conservation efforts, the city, and developers to bring apartments, businesses, and grocery stores into the west side.
Located along the west edge of the Charleston Peninsula and the banks of the Ashley River, the new West Edge development is projected to bring in 4,280 new jobs, more than 100 new companies, and 2,500 new residents to the area. Two major construction projects at West Edge will be completed this year, an 8-story office and research building and a 9-story apartment building that houses Publix supermarket on the first floor. CEO of West End Foundation says that when the city and the organization made plans for development of the West Side, bringing accessible groceries to the area was a priority, both for the newcomers and for those who have lived here for generations.
In the overall master planning process, the idea of the grocery was important as an anchor, but also as a community service. And you know, the west side of the peninsula doesn't have all of the love, if you will, that the east side of the peninsula does. It doesn't have all the services. It's kind of a food desert. You don't really have, there might be access to food, but easy, convenient access for the full population to healthy food options, to affordable food options, they really don't exist on the west side of the peninsula right now. Now with the Publix, we've solved that.
Coming up at 5, I'll bring you more on what you can expect to see at West Edge in the future. Reporting on the west side of downtown Charleston, Taylor Murray, Count on 2.
Taylor, thank you. New beachside construction on Folly Beach may soon have new rules, all in an effort to maintain the beach and protect development from storms. The ordinance passed its first reading unanimously last night after about a dozen community meetings. If passed, the ordinance would require new construction to be built 40 feet back from the high water line, or what's known as the baseline. Folly Beach is the only beach not protected by the South Carolina Beachfront Management Act. We spoke to Folly Beach Mayor Tim Goodwin, who says it's about safety.
So we have to really be careful that we're proactive and not reactive in nature. We've been reactive too long. So this is a proactive measure to build dunes, give us a place to build dunes, and protect the infrastructure and houses.
The move would also push septic tanks and septic fields back from the ocean, meaning more protection for the environment. The ordinance will have to pass 2 more readings before it goes into effect. David, thank you. The Charleston County School Board is addressing failing and inadequate schools. They're welcoming community input to find solutions to many of the district's problems. But some North Charleston leaders say the changes aren't happening fast enough. And as Olivia Parsons tells us, they have one solution to the problem.
This summer, a local church group will put together a summer camp to help youth develop skills to become more successful. This in response to their call for action from school administrators about the failing schools in Charleston County. Right now, there are 9 failing schools on the South Carolina School Improvement Designation list. Lewis Smith from the Community Resource Center says his group asked school administrators for change. Unsatisfied, Smith and Life Changers Covenant Ministries developed what they call a summer of sit-ins.
We want these learning centers, and we need it. When people reaching out, you should accept them. Now we have over 50 people here standing up with us and saying we are here standing up for our children.
The Charleston County School District Board says they're working on how to address issues preventing students and schools from being successful. The district says it recognizes the importance of the voices and viewpoints from all groups desiring educational excellence for the students of CCSD. Reporting in studio, Olivia Parsons, Count on 2.
Olivia, thank you. A woman is behind bars after not leaving her home when deputies tried to serve a bench warrant. We're told the SWAT team helped North Charleston Police Department with a call for a barricaded person on Piedmont Avenue. Helen Williams was wanted for failing to appear in court for a pending hit and run with a death charge. We're told she threatened police and did not cooperate with officers refusing to come out of that house. Charleston County Sheriff's Office took her into custody after speaking with a negotiator. The Charleston Harbor Deepening Project just received $138 million for construction funding. This will allow construction to stay on schedule. The money is federal funding from President Trump's budget, and the deepening project is expected to make transportation more efficient within the harbor. Low Country volunteers from the Life Center Cathedral spent the past 2 days in Lee County, Alabama, helping victims of the recent tornadoes. The church volunteers took cleaning supplies, new baby clothing, infant formula, baby wipes, and canned goods to donate to those in need. They also raised more than $500 in cash and gift cards. Volunteers worked on removing debris from 2 home-on sites.
Next on News 2.
More details coming out of the college cheating scandal. The latest on those suspects, plus new radio transmissions have been released to News 2 from an officer-involved shootout in Hugie. The details of a college cheating scandal are shocking, involving once respected college coaches and test-taking ringers. Investigators say the man who rigged the system worked with at least 10 college coaches and profited off the pay-to-play scheme. Parents, including Hollywood stars, shelled out big bucks to get their children into top Ivy League schools. Pete Williams has that story.
The colleges are some of America's most elite and hardest to get into, including Yale, Georgetown, and Stanford. The FBI says 8 universities in all unwittingly admitted students with phony athletic records or inflated test scores paid for by their parents' bribes.
We believe all of them, parents, coaches, and facilitators, lied, cheated, and covered up their crimes at the expense of hardworking students and taxpayers everywhere.
Among those charged, Desperate Housewives star Felicity Huffman, Full House actress Lori Loughlin, corporate CEOs, and high-priced lawyers. The FBI says a California man arranged it all, William Singer, who ran a college prep business.
I understand the stress the college admissions process can put on your family.
He pleaded guilty Tuesday to accepting a total of $25 million to get students admitted as athletes, even though many had never even played a sport. Singer says he used some of that money to bribe coaches, who put the applicants into their designated admission slots and kept the rest of the money for himself. Singer also admitted paying test proctors to let someone else take a student's admissions exams, like the SAT, to pump up their scores. Prosecutors say parents disguised their payments to Singer as contributions to a charity he ran, so they could even deduct the payments on their taxes.
We're not talking about donating a building so that a school's more likely to take your son or daughter. We're talking about deception and fraud.
And prosecutors say more charges against more parents are possible as the investigation goes on. Most of the coaches involved have now been fired. A few were put on leave, but none of the students have been charged. Prosecutors say the parents and the coaches were to blame. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
Next on News 2.
Every 9 seconds, someone in the United States gets a brain injury. Next, we speak to a brain injury coordinator who tells us how to protect ourselves and identify those injuries. But first, let's go ahead and check in with News 2's Brendan Clark to see what they're working on in the newsroom. Brendan.
Sophia, a lot going on in Washington. The Department of Defense is looking at ways it can enact the president's order to ban transgender persons from serving in the United States military. And the Department of Veterans Affairs is looking to extend benefits to service members who were affected by the use of defoliants. We have team coverage from the nation's capital. Plus, March is Women's History Month, and we are honoring women who have made the world a better place. Tonight, we highlight financier and philanthropist Darla Moore. Plus, we got a cool school teacher to talk about. We'll see you at 5 o'clock.
5.3 million Americans live with a traumatic brain injury-related disability, with thousands of people going undiagnosed. Here with us to help identify brain injuries and better protect ourselves is Michelle Moore with Roper St. Francis. Michelle, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So we see those shocking statistics of just traumatic brain injuries alone. What are some examples of the most common brain injuries you guys deal with?
Sure. So at Roper Rehab Hospital, we see falls as a primary cause of brain injury, and that's followed by motor vehicle crashes and bicycle and motorcycle accidents.
And we were speaking just moments ago, and you were telling me that a lot of these go undiagnosed. Tell me about the importance of this Awareness Month.
Sure. So mild brain injuries often do go undiagnosed, things like concussions. So we want to spread awareness about brain injury, not only being misdiagnoses, but helping the community be aware that there are many brain injury survivors living here in Charleston. So if you encounter somebody who maybe moves a little bit differently, speaks a little differently, handles situations, social situations a little differently, they could be a brain injury survivor. So please be kind and be patient, because you never know their background.
Absolutely, and we talked about what to look for. How do we prevent that from even happening in the first place?
Sure, so if you have any mobility issues or balance issues, making sure you prevent falls. So using handrails, having assistance. Another one is to just use safety tips. So wearing a helmet whenever you ride a bike, motorcycle, moped, being smart in the car, not driving distracted, not texting and driving. Motor vehicle crashes are the second leading cause. And then finally, I would add concussions. So any sports teams, athletes, you should have a concussion protocol in place. We know that repeat concussions can be really dangerous, so making sure you don't return to play too quickly after a concussion.
And tell me this, is the hospital doing anything special for the month?
Yes, so we're out in the community spreading awareness at events like this. We're spreading awareness within our Roper St. Francis hospital system, and we're also highlighting some brain injury awareness facts and tips within the rehab hospital.
Wonderful, Michelle. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We have more News 2 at 4 after this short break. Rob, thank you. We now have more information about the shooting that took place in Hugie back on February 26th. A Berkeley County Sheriff's deputy was pinned down for about 17 minutes as that suspect fired dozens of shots. News 2's Berkeley County reporter Raymond Owens has that story from the Sheriff's Office.
The Berkeley County Sheriff's Office just released that dash cam video earlier this afternoon, and it's quite intense. A sheriff's deputy responds February 26th to the scene as one of his fellow deputies is pinned down behind his vehicle, as the suspect fires. You can see the pinned deputy standing behind his vehicle. Deputies repeated over and over, "Joe, it's important that you put your gun down and put your hands up and walk straight towards the road." They said that again and again. At about 4:24 p.m., you can see a number of deputies approaching in front of a home to your left. At 5 o'clock, a SWAT team vehicle drives into the yard to get into place. Officers ended up having to kill 51-year-old Joseph Hart. He would not surrender, and shot after shot rang out during the entire ordeal. A bunch of shots, one after another, rang out just after this deputy arrived. We have more of that dash cam video at our website. Just go to counton2.com. At the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office in Moncks Corner, I'm Raymond Owens. Count on 2.
Difficult video to watch. Raymond, thank you. New at 4, a North Charleston man, Israel Aguilar Perez, is behind bars for sexual crimes against a child. According to court documents, it happened early this morning. Perez and a 14-year-old had been in what's described as a sexual relationship for the last month, and the teen had been missing from home. President Trump signed the Fort Sumter and Fort Moultrie National Historic Park Act into law. The act, sponsored by Senator Tim Scott, allows the two Lowcountry parks protections and preservation. It was previously passed by the United States Senate last month as part of the larger federal lands package. A Count on 2 update on the potential sale of Santee Cooper. A special committee is looking into whether or not they should sell the state-owned utility after the nuclear project fiasco. Several senators on that committee now appear skeptical about plans for potential buyers to bring cheaper power to South Carolina. Right now, lawmakers are studying a consultant's report. They say there are at least 3 offers to buy the company that would erase its debt and rescue the number of rate increases. A Count on 2 update, a story we first brought you here on News 2 at 4 o'clock. Proposed changes to attendance lines in Berkeley County School District have been approved. The board decided last night to redraw the lines for the Sangaree area. This means nearly 800 students who currently go to Cane Bay High School will now go to Stratford starting next year. Buses will not be provided for students who opt to stay at Cane Bay. It is time now to take a look at some of the top stories from around the country trending on counton2.com right now. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort will be serving more time in prison. A federal judge in Washington sentenced Manafort with an additional 43 months in prison on charges of conspiracy and witness tampering. Those charges are in connection to his work lobbying for politicians in Ukraine. The sentence is on top of the 47-month sentence he received in federal court last week. An Australian cardinal who was the Vatican's chief financial officer and advisor to Pope Francis has been sentenced to 6 years in prison for molesting 2 boys after a Sunday mass in 1996. The cardinal will have no chance for parole for 3 years and 8 months. The cardinal is the most senior Catholic official to be found guilty in a criminal court for sexually abusing minors. A former Florida officer is accused of targeting women on police databases to get a date. The suspect reached out to as many as 150 women with social media, phone calls, or home visits. Investigators say he got caught after a woman and her parents reported him for following the woman home from a local store. The FBI has now taken over that case. Utah police say DNA testing helped confirm that serial killer Ted Bundy murdered 17-year-old Deborah Kent back in 1970. Kent left a play to pick her brother up from an ice skating rink and never returned home. He admitted to her killing in 1989 and told police where he left her body.
Next on News 2.
The Food and Drug Administration has approved a new nasal spray for those battling severe depression. It's the first product to have gotten the okay in years.
To Your Health, sponsored by Lowcountry Orthopedics.
Depression affects millions of Americans each day, but last week the FDA approved a new drug that some say will be life-changing for those battling the disorder. News 2's Carolyn Murray has that story.
Sophia, thank you. Esketamine is a nasal spray and is the first product to have gotten the okay in years. There is a similar treatment out now called ketamine therapy, but is administered intravenously. This new treatment is for those who have not responded to other treatments.
I went from not wanting to be alive to Now I don't even think about not being alive.
Barbara Bailey has been in a battle for decades.
I went back to look at like how many different medicines I've tried, and it's been 16 medicines over like 20 years.
She's been diagnosed with treatment-resistant depression and also chronic migraines that left her in bed for 80% of the week.
In the fall, I didn't even have any goals. I just wanted to survive.
Bailey says it wasn't until she came across Dr. Patrick Oliver and his ketamine therapy that she began to feel better.
I was really, really terrified that it wasn't going to work because I didn't know what that meant at that point, what I was going to do.
When you hear something that's too good to be true, obviously we're naturally skeptical. But when you go out and when you talk to patients like Barbara, you see the profound impact that they've had.
Dr. Oliver says the treatment is a game changer.
The difference between working on a telegraph versus a telephone or text message. And it's a very different way that the brain uses to communicate. And so this seems to be targeting people in a very rapid fashion.
Patients come in, get the medicine via IV under the careful watch of a doctor. For the first time in years, the FDA approved a new drug by Johnson & Johnson called esketamine that's in the form of a nasal spray.
That the spray is a good option for many people. It will still be physician office administered. And so I think it can still be done in a safe and effective manner.
And although effective, the spray is pricey.
It is between $4,700 and $6,500 for the first month versus an IV infusion, which it can be done for 6 infusions can be done for less than $3,000.
As Dr. Oliver pushes for other doctors and psychiatrists to turn to what he calls life-saving treatment, patients like Barbara are thankful.
It's hard to be a naysayer when it's your last resort.
And there is no word when the nasal spray will actually be available. However, ketamine is often abused as a party drug. Some people call it Special K. Dr. Oliver warns against using this, and it should only be administered by a trained professional. Reporting in the studio, Carolyn Murray, Count on 2.
Next on News 2.
Authorities think they might have found the remains of a Carolina woman who was last seen Friday. Before we go, we want to take a look at what's trending on our WCBD app. A Low Country's principal lost her son in the deadly Ethiopian Boeing plane crash. Honda recalls 1.2 million vehicles with dangerous airbags, and a man pleads guilty to animal abuse. Stay with us.
Stay in the know on the go with the News 2 app, sponsored by Amnesty Health Group.
A possible lead in the case of a North Carolina mother who's been missing since Friday. The remains were found in the Tarboro area, and they may be 38-year-old Diana Keel. Casey Cunningham has that story.
Anything to say about Diana's disappearance?
Walking into the Nash County Sheriff's Office, Lynn Keel. He's the husband of the woman missing in Nash County, Diana Alejandra Keel. Nash County Sheriff Keith Stone is calling him a person of interest in the case. Investigators, search and rescue teams, and a dive team searched for this missing mother of two Tuesday. Then a DOT employee discovered a body here in the woods off Pokes Hope Road in Edgecombe County.
There is definitely foul play afoot.
Stone says Lynn Keel has been cooperative. Deputies informed him Monday afternoon a body had been discovered.
His reaction? Surprised.
Diana Alejandra's family lives in Columbia. They tell us that's where she met her husband Lynn. Then they moved to North Carolina 7 years ago. Her brother Mauricio is anxiously awaiting updates.
My sister would not leave her kids alone. She's joyful, she is caring, she is a great mother. She's the best sister ever. She's like a guardian angel. Your plans are higher than ours.
Keel's church family calling on guardian angels of their own. They gathered here at Christian Fellowship Church Tuesday evening for a prayer vigil.
Her strength, her love.
Lynn and Diana Keel attend here with Lynn's parents. Their friends here tonight, emotional, tearful, and make a promise to look after Keel's children.
Diana just had a great smile, and she loved her kids. She loved her children. And please lift up these children. Please lift up this entire family. Lift up this community. And just know that our church is going to do everything we can to bring comfort in this time.
The cause of death has yet to be confirmed by authorities. Chipotle Mexican Grill is finally rolling out their rewards program nationwide, and there's a chance you can win cash by signing up. The chain is teaming up with Venmo to give away up to $250,000 to 25,000 Chipotle fans a day. No purchase is necessary to participate. To enter, you could go to the ChipotleRewardsMe.com and submit the phone number associated with your Venmo account. The contest runs now through March 15th. Thanks so much for joining us on News 2 at 4 on this Wednesday. My time is up, but next we have Carolyn Murray and Brendan Clark with News 2 at 5 o'clock. Let's go ahead and check in with them now for see what they have in store for us. Brendan, Carolyn?
Sophia, thank you. Looking ahead to News 2 at 5, it is Wednesday, and that means it's time to introduce you to our cool teacher of the week.
Always love to meet them. We have a full report. Plus, we are continuing to file this breaking news story. The president orders the grounding of all Boeing 737 MAX 8 and 9 airplanes.
We have a live report on what this means for you.